On this episode of Lead That Thing, I talk to Robb Conlon, host of Recruiting Hell. Welcome back, everyone. Today, my guest is Robb Conlon, my friend and fellow podcaster. Whether he's recording audiobooks, building and hiring for multi-million-dollar clients, or creating Stevie award-winning social media experiences for customers, Robb has been at the forefront of helping people get great jobs for nearly 15 years. Now, he sets his sights on his greatest target yet, helping millions of people that are out of work in 2020. Using his unique blend of sales, marketing, hiring know-how, and radio voice, Robb is your guide to navigating the fires of recruiting hell. Welcome to the show, Robb.
Aruna, it is great to be here, and it's so fun to be on your show a second time as the actual guest this time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you, Robb. So tell us, what is the topic you are bringing my audience today, and how did you learn about it?
The topic that we're bringing today is a bit of entrepreneurship, and that is revolving around when I started my podcast. I didn't think that I had the know-how to get that going. And then I realized that once I connected with people in the communities online, like yourself, Aruna, that there was an opportunity for me to spin up that podcast as a flagship product for a company, which was pretty darn neat. So I founded Westport Studios in the depths of the pandemic to help make audio for everyone. And my show is also part of the charge of that, not only getting myself back to work, but also leading the charge for America and the world, because I have international listeners too, leading the charge to get back to work with meaningful things that folks can do to get a new or better job.
That's like you are basically leading by example. So that's amazing. So how did you recognize a need to tell your story or educate people on this topic?
Well, it's really interesting because when you look at the job hunt, a job hunt is what is called a terrible problem. And yes, it's terrible in the sense that it's bad. But the definition of a terrible problem, and I cannot for the life of me remember where I read this, is a problem that does not have a defined solution. And when you try to solve the problem, you get one shot and no feedback. So it's a terrible problem. And again, for everybody in the world, no matter what your skill set is, your job journey is going to be different than my job journey, is going to be different than Joe Schmo's job journey. And what I wanted to do with Recruiting Hell and creating this podcast for folks out in the job market was say, you know what? I know that everybody's journey is different, but there's a lot of common building blocks in everybody's job hunt that you need to master in order to win it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when you said the word terrible problem, and yeah, definitely, I think a lot of people that lost their jobs during the pandemic, including myself, can relate to that. It's almost like just going in blind, and regardless of how you think you're doing, it's the feedback just may not come back with what you're expecting. And it's a lot of resilience needed. And especially, I think it's nice that your show provides a lot of tips and tools of how to go about it, and maybe how to have a strategy and distinguish yourself. So yeah, that's really great. You make a really good point there. So during this journey, you're trying to help people find jobs through different techniques. What have you personally learned or gained from doing this?
Oh, it's so funny because founding an audio studio, number one, and then creating this show out of it has taught me so much. And to go back in time just a little bit, about 5-6 years ago, I was working for a great company out of West Bend, Wisconsin, fabulous Inc. 5000 company, excellent people, great culture, all sorts of resources and things like that, really growing this membership-based company.
Mhm.
And I was given an opportunity to take over the social media aspect of that company. And I based my entire social media credo, if you will, on a very simple sentence. And I have taken this to every single project that I've ever done from that point on. And that was, be nice to people on social media. It's that sentence. And taking that sentence and expanding it into something that was not just a customer care vehicle, but also something that was a learning vehicle based around the community that this company served. And the concept of be nice to everyone on social media is very broad, but it, at a deeper level, it's something that resonates with not only communities of people online, but also with customers and all these things that revolve around your business. Be as great to people as you can be, especially because social media is a public space. So looking at how to educate people on being a better job applicant kind of married up to this a little bit, because you need to be building kind of this little job community around you of people that are networked to you, are people that are helping you search for a job. Team job hunting, something really big, came up in a couple of my episodes here, one for next week and then a few weeks ago as well. Job hunting is a team. Who would have thought? And I believe that the idea of taking yourself and going out there on kind of a limb sometimes when it comes to running your own personal brand is really a big step for a lot of people. And I took that big step myself this year.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think the point you made with that job community, I think that's really important, because I don't think we normally think about that journey as a community journey, right? We treat it individually, and having that support, and definitely the importance of networking, and not just transactional networking, but building those relationships is definitely what's going to make it easier. So I think that's a great point. And definitely kudos to you on, I think, as a podcaster, embracing your community, as do I, right? We have people to turn to, people to give us advice, to make us better at what we do at our craft. So definitely great advice there, and great learnings. So with all this work you've done, can you tell us a success story that has come out of your efforts?
You know, the really neat thing is that the show, you know, has its roots back social media days, but now it's grown into this thing where I'm kind of the company and I can choose what the actual content is, not actually play along with, you know, what the marketing kids came up with this week. And the neat thing that's a success story about this is that there are people from recruiting hell, from the depths of despair and from, oh my God, my job hunt is so terrible, that they've actually gotten out, and they credit the show for that. And as a result, I said to myself when I started this, I said, if I can get one person a job, this is success.
Right.
And we're that number keeps on ticking up a little bit day by day, which is super cool. But the neat thing that I did with that was that I said, oh my gosh, people need to hear about this. There needs to be a ray of light and hope. So there's a whole subset of my show that now does we call it Recruiting Hell Escapee Edition, because they escaped that awful drudgery of hunting for a job.
Yeah.
So we published our first one last week. We've got another one coming up in December. And as more and more people listen to the show, implement the tactics, and go forward with this attitude that they can win a job hunt, it just keeps building. And I hope if we have another episode here next year or something like that, where I'm on this show again, that I've got 5 or 6 other awesome stories to tell you.
Well, that's great. I mean, you start out with a why you're doing something you're doing, which is sort of your purpose. And now this is saying, yes, you're fulfilling your purpose every single day. And that's so rewarding. That's so rewarding. And it also makes you want to do more, right? Because you know you're on the right path. I wanna dig into that just a little more. So can you give us a glimpse into this knowledge that you shared, and give us a glimpse into the upcoming episode or the episode that just aired. How did this person use this information, or how did that success come about? What was the change, the before and the after?
Sure. And actually, I'm going to use the example we both know. Tom
Yeah.
has been a long time listener. He's listened to my entire show, which is awesome. He mentioned that the regimenting of his day around his job search was one of the biggest keys to getting out of recruiting hell. And the way that what I'm talking about for folks is, you've heard people talk about time blocking and things like that. It's a consistent push every single day towards your goal of getting a job. And if you're not in the right mindset to build that structure and live within that structure, you're not going to have success, because you're going to start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So what he did from our show was say, okay, I need to really buckle down. And there's a couple things that you can sort of help if people are looking for a job. A couple things that help build structure in life: getting up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, making sure that you eat around the same times, scheduling a time during the day for your job hunt, and scheduling time for other things like cutting the grass and taking care of the kids and things like that. And again, kids don't necessarily go by schedules. You can tell I'm not a parent, but at the same time, saying, hey, partner or whoever it might be, I need to cut the grass right now because it needs to be done. Establishing that schedule to replace the schedule that work used to give you.
Yeah, that's discipline, and then just making it a part of your day. So it's not like haphazard. It's like, okay, my job hunt, this is my dedicated time, and you get that routine. There's so much benefit that comes out of a predictable routine, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And probably takes away some of that mental stress, because now it's not like, oh, great, I got to do my job hunt. It's more like, okay, this is my task on my list here. It becomes more objective, and it takes it out of your head. And here are the tasks that I need to do to get to a certain goal.
Correct. And those little victories every day add up, and they help bolster you. So you might have a rejection letter that comes through for a job you really wanted, and it's going to hit you hard. I mean, it's going to really hit you, because rejection sucks. Everybody in the world doesn't like to be rejected. And yeah, right. I mean, whether it's sales, whether it's job applications, anything like that, people don't like to be rejected because it hurts. It's an emotional thing.
Right.
And having those things that remind you throughout the day that you are accomplishing things, that you are pushing forward in your job hunt, is really important.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great story, and I think a great tool. That's a great tool to take forward too. And part of it, I wanted you to share that with us, because we know that there's still a lot of people searching for jobs. So that's really a tip that I want them to take away. And definitely listen to Robb's show. He's got so much invaluable information. So you will definitely come away feeling better, or coming away with a plan and strategy on how to go about stuff. So what word of advice would you give to aspiring leaders and current leaders out there?
This is one, and I've been waiting for you to ask this question the entire time, Aruna. The phrase I came across the other day is an old Latin phrase, and it basically translates to, when the wind will not serve, take to the oars. And somebody may have heard that before, but I think for your job hunt, for your business, for whatever it might be, there are things that come into life and they slow your boat down, if you will. You can't just let your boat stop. You need to continue to push on with it. So no matter what your project is, if it's getting a job, if it's leading something for a company, if it's setting up even something as simple as setting up a social media account, sometimes those things don't do what they're supposed to do. If the wind will not serve, if the normal methods will not serve, take to the methods that you can add to. I love that one. That's one of my new favorites.
Yeah. And it reminds me of a similar phrase, which is, and maybe probably a more common phrase, which is, opportunity is not given, it's created. But the way you said it is pretty much that showing how to create it, right?
Right. Yes.
Right.
And you have to do the things that other people aren't doing. And that's what's going to set you apart in, again, project management, job hunting, whatever it might be. Do the things that other people aren't doing. If, for example, you have a giant social media following, like when I was working for that company, we had 1.6 million people on there. And nobody in our industry was reflecting back good sentiment to their followers. People would comment and everything like that. Nobody was in that. People ate that up. We grew that page by over 30% in the time I was managing it. So that's almost 500,000 people. And people came by because we were personable. It wasn't just a social media thing where they'd see a funny meme or a video or whatever it might be.
Right.
They came for the moderator. They came for the person behind the content.
Right.
And that goes so far with any project in life.
Yeah. Building relationships is everything, right? It builds the trust and makes people be loyal to you. So yeah, definitely. I agree. So this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure the audience would want to know more about where to find you and what all the great things you're doing are. So where can they find you, Rob?
Sure. Two main places. The first is westportstudiosllc.com. If you're in business and you have some questions about audio or bringing audio to your customers, that would be something I could completely help you folks with. That's my business. That's how I make some really neat things. And of course, one of the neat things that I do make is number 2. You can find us also at recruitinghell.com. That's recruiting-hell.com. All over the social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Again, LinkedIn is huge for us. If you or someone you know are on a job hunt right now, I invite you to come down to Recruiting Hell. It's nice and warm, if you will. Everybody is welcome at the table in Recruiting Hell, even if they're happy with their job. And I would think that you can always find things to improve your lot in life from my show. And of course, you can get that show anywhere that you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, all over the place.
That's wonderful. And it was such a pleasure having you, Rob, today. Thanks so much for coming on again. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, most definitely, Aruna. Thank you again. This is always so fun. And again, thanks for being just a great compatriot in our podcast journey. It's awesome.
Lead That Thing is a production of Optim LLC, helping businesses define strategies for growth, strategize, energize, optimize. Join me next week on Lead That Thing to hear about how people are going out there to make a difference in their lives and for others. Until then, lead that thing.